Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markel. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Conscious Pivot. Oh my goodness. I just love saying that, actually, the Conscious Pivot, because in so many ways we are all pivoting. Lives are very much like everything in nature. It's there's just change everywhere, right? Things are changing all the time. The seasons are changing and the weather's changing, and there's clouds and then there's sun and it's light and dark, and there's all this change that's in nature. And yet oftentimes we resist change. That change scares the daylights out of us. And in some cases, I think change is scary. And I don't want to ever pretend that it's not what it is, but recognizing what it is. And there's that expression, people say it is what it is. And I always it's like fingernails on chalkboard when I hear that kind of thing, because it's not what it is. It's what we make it. It's not what it is. It's what we utilize it to be. So when we talk about change, we're talking about utilization of change, not just management of change. That to me is the true alchemy and the opportunity for our lives to be what they can be and what they may well have been designed to be if we don't get in the way of it. There's something so divine there. So I want to start with gratitude, as always, to say a blessing for all of us that we're here right now, that we're watching, we're listening, that we're together. This is a sacred moment. We're awake. Wow, we are awake. And as we take a breath together, so take a breath, receive a breath right now. We get to take and receive a breath together collectively. It's a fact that all over the world, there are people taking their very last breath in this moment. So regardless of what pains you might have or challenges or the joy that you might be experiencing, this moment is sacred and it's special. It's holy. I feel really blessed to be here with all of you, to be here with this incredible guest that I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment. We get to share this time together, be awake and be even more awake as a result of this conversation is something I am very, very grateful for. And I truly love my life. And I hope you absolutely love your life, and you're going to love your life so much more in just a little while, because I have the amazing Sharon Lechter with me, and virtually with me. We built this studio at our house, which is really cool. We use it for training purposes and also for some filming and things. But one of these days, I'm going to have some of these interviews done live. And Sharon, I know we don't live too far apart, so you might be one of those people that we invite to come to beautiful Carlsbad and sit in the studio and have a conversation. But the next best thing for me anyway is the fact that we get to see each other right now. I get to see your beautiful face on Zoom, and there are people that'll be watching and listening, and folks that'll just be listening. So if you want to see Sharon and not see me, but more importantly, to see this glorious lady, then definitely tune in for that. Sharon Lechter is an internationally recognized business owner, entrepreneur, and she is recognized as a financial literacy expert and a keynote speaker. She is also a New York Times bestselling author, successful entrepreneur, philanthropist, licensed CPA, and a chartered global management accountant. She's the founder and CEO of Pay Your Family First, a financial education organization that provides tools and mentorship to support families, women, and entrepreneurs. Sharon has a passion for financial literacy and entrepreneurship, inspiring individuals and businesses for more than 30 years. She's credited as the genius behind the Rich Dad brand. Sharon is currently partnered with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. As a driving force behind these two mega brands, Sharon has demonstrated her entrepreneurial vision and expertise, empowering audiences with messages of hope, and prosperity. Sharon is the author of the best-selling books Think and Grow Rich for Women. I'm holding that one up right here. As well as Outwitting the Devil, and I'm holding that one up right here. And 3 Feet from Gold, which is on my shelf somewhere. And the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, 14 Rich Dad, Poor Dad books as well. So without further ado, it is my honor and my pleasure to welcome you, Sharon. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be with you, Adam.
What a joy. Would you share a little bit about, you've got a beautiful CV, as we used to call it when I was a lawyer, called as curriculum vitae, resume. You've done so many things. You've helped so many people. I mean, it may even be uncomfortable to hear this out loud, or maybe it's not, but your work between the books, the education programs, the lectures you've given, the talks all over the world, you've probably touched the lives of millions and millions of people at this point. That's pretty incredible. And I know you're a devoted mother and grandmother, and you've got a lot of things going on in your life. Where are you today in terms of your passion? What are you jazzed up about in your business? I mean, after you've helped millions and millions of people, where do you go from there? I mean, and I know you are so active. In fact, getting you on this show was not easy because your travel schedule, everything else. So share with us what you're passionate about today.
Well, my passion today is, for many, many years, writing the books and doing the seminars, and you're one to many. And today I'm doing a lot of one-on-one mentoring, which really is wonderful. But it really is, every time I hear from someone that is able to make an improvement in their life, it just feeds me and gives me the excitement and the courage and the ability to continue wanting to continue down that path. And certainly, yes, my resume is very, very long. It has something to do with my age, I think. But it's something that no matter what I've done, whether I was on the President's Advisory Council or, expanding the Rich Dad organization, or now helping reignite Napoleon Hill's legacy, his teachings, I get as much as I give, and it's from the people that are eager to take a step and improve their lives. And so that's what feeds me, is the fact that there are people out there that don't want to be victims. They want to be victors. They want to take control of their lives. And that's really the thing that feeds my passion. And sometimes I go, well, maybe it's time to let life be a little slower and slow down. I am terrible at slowing down. So it just doesn't work for me. At the beginning of 16, I think I was on the road about 70% of the time. And so my goal for 17 was to cut that back to 50. Well, in 2017, I was on the road about 80% of the time. So I failed miserably at slowing down. And it just recently said, you know what, maybe slowing down isn't the right answer for me, and continue doing what I'm doing. And, that's what feeds me. So I need to keep doing it.
We have to feed our souls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, either by design, so we choose to feed our souls in some way that's conscious, or we feed our souls by default. Mm-hmm. I know when I spent 18 years, as you probably remember, not the time frame, but that I was a lawyer before this. And right. So personal growth and human potential, that area was the major pivot in my career. Mm-hmm. I'd never done any of that work before. What was going on before that was really allowing my soul to be fed without any sort of a consciousness about it. And therefore my soul felt like it was shriveling. I guess it's the only way I could really describe it. It was like dying on the inside. And when I read Outwitting the Devil, and I would love for you to maybe shed a little bit of light on this, I realized that for many years I was drifting, even though I was quite driven by my occupation and to earn money and make money and pay the bills and all the usual things that we get driven by sometimes. I was drifting. I was drifting on the inside, and waking up in the morning and feeling at the beginning of the day no enthusiasm, just not any excitement for what was to come, was like being lost at sea. And I know that in the book, one of the big takeaways, one of the things that really changed my perspective and a lot of other people's is what's this concept of drifting. So would you share a little bit about that concept? And have you drifted in your life? Has that been where did you sort of pinpoint that you weren't either, that you were aware that maybe drifting was a challenge for you, and what did you do about it? If you share some things about that, that would be great.
Well, absolutely. But I think I'm going to start with what you just said, because I think a lot of people watching and listening will relate to what you talked about. You were driven, and a lot of driven people. But what happens when we're driven, and this is me too. I grew up as a child of a military man and straight A student. This personal development stuff, that was woo-woo stuff, right? And so I spent my life very, very driven, doing what I thought I was supposed to do, right? And you were doing what you thought you were supposed to do, and you're very good at it, and you were very driven. And instead of doing what we needed to do, and we can take that talent and convert that into taking what we're supposed to do, doing it well, but making sure we're also doing what we need to do for ourselves and for our families. And so the Outwitting the Devil was a huge revelation to me, and it's been, it was very late in my career when I had the honor to read that and bring that book out. And I think while he wrote it in 1938, I think his wife didn't forbid it to be published because she didn't like the title. She was working for the church. And so it was hidden away, and it didn't come out for 75 years. But I really think there was a higher power at work, because I think that's the message that we need right now, for people to understand that fear holds us back. And a lot of people, well, I don't have fear in my life. But when you start thinking about the fear when we were kids, our parents talking about money, saying we can't afford it, doesn't grow on trees, all of those things that we heard as young people about money were negative. And so we'd have money negative, money negative, money negative. And all of a sudden it builds a subconscious fear about money. And so we're afraid we're not going to ever have enough. And then when we make it, we're afraid we're going to lose it. And we don't know where that fear is coming from. And I think Outwitting the Devil allows us to open our subconscious and realize the things that have happened to us all during our lives that have caused this deep-seated fear and angst about certain things in our life that we didn't even consciously recognize was there. And how we can, once you reveal it, you think about it, it's like you start feeling these things click, like, oh my goodness, I can let go of that and start making productive use of my life. And Outwitting the Devil was transformational for me as well. And our goal when I started working with Napoleon Hill Foundation was to bring his teachings to the younger generation. 3 Feet from Gold did a great job, but Outwitting the Devil truly hit the mark. And the fact that the younger generation, they're getting it. They're a little, because the book's a little in your face, but it really helps open your eyes to those things. And I think you're so true, because it talks about, Hill says 98% of the world are drifters. And as the issue is, are you in control of what you're doing? Are you the CEO of your own life? Or are you going along for the ride? And I often talk about school today is, we go from our kids are curious and they're creative when they first start school, and in school they're taught conformity, and then all of a sudden we're into our careers and we get comfortable. And that comfortable, and this goes along with your pivot, is we're comfortable. All of a sudden we face a crisis in our lives, whether it be personal, financial, or professionally, and we get thrown into chaos. And how do we get out of that chaos? We're in that pivot time, is again going back to curiosity and creativity. So keep creativity and curiosity alive in your children.
Sure. And that's the child that's in us, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In fact, Randy often asks me this question. She says, so what's the creative opportunity? Anytime we hit one of those moments that you might call a crisis moment, or a moment of confusion, or we're just sort of caught unaware by something, what's the creative opportunity there? And that is looking at it very much through child's eyes, right? Sharon, what is drifting? How would you define that? And I say that for anybody listening, watching this now, if you have not read Outwitting the Devil, this is one of those great books to get for yourself and then gift to other people, because there's some between the principle of drifting and what I was able to apply learning about masterminds in a different way, because I'd read about Think and Grow Rich introduced mastermind to me, but when I read Outwitting the Devil, I got it. I got it at a deeper level. So, but let's start with drifting. What is that?
Well, I compare it to going with the flow. The term whatever. All right, so a drifter kind of just goes through life and lets life happen to them. And they basically are not in control of their own destiny. They're letting other people make decisions for them. They're being complacent. And if you're a non-drifter, you are in charge of your own mind, and you are in charge of what you're doing. You have goals, and you're focused on achieving those goals. Will you get off course? Yes. You know, I use the analogy, a sailor, right? If you're doing a sailboat, you're not necessarily going to go straight from one point to the other. You're going to go tick and tack back and forth. So you want to understand that what your goal is, and you're always going to be focused there. You may get off to course a little bit, but you know how to recalibrate, because you know what your ultimate goal is. That's the non-drifter, someone that's in charge of their own mind and not allowing outside influences to pull them aside. You know, today we have so much chaos and so much noise around us and so much negativity that sometimes that it gets in, permeates into our subconscious without us even realizing it. And so to get away from that drifting, focus on what is the environment around you. What are you allowing to be in your space? Who are you hanging out with? How are you spending your time? Those are all elements that we talk about in Outwitting the Devil, as to how you can take control of everything in your environment, the people you hang out with, how you're spending your time to create what your ultimate goal in life is.
Yeah. As Yogananda said, environment is stronger than will. Do you believe that to be the case?
Yes and no. I believe there are people out there that have exceptionally strong wills and allow themselves to go in bad environments to create change. Mm-hmm. So I would disagree with that statement, in the fact that when you have such a strong will, you have the ability to go in and pivot an environment that is negative into one that's positive.
Beautiful. That's a great reframe. Can we dive into a bit of your pivot story here? Because I think that's one of the things that our community loves so much, is the authenticity and even the vulnerability of our guests, because we've all made mistakes. And I'm not tired of talking about my mistakes, but for today, and I don't even know if we're calling these mistakes anymore. I mean, our lives are such a great reflection of the way that we've been able to alchemize change. Take something that you might call crap, or that is framed and seen as something negative, and utilize it for something amazing and beautiful, and even change the trajectory of your life. I love the word that you use, recalibration. It's sort of a recalibration tool, this concept of pivoting. And so if you'd share a little about your pivots.
Sure. Well, at my age, I've had a whole lot of pivots, Adam, but I'll focus in on just 3 of them. Like you, I started off as a professional and was highly successful in my career with a large accounting firm. And at the ripe old age of 25, when we know everything, I said, I'm working crazy hours. If I'm going to be working this hard, I should be working for myself instead of someone else. And so one of my clients invited me to leave and go into a company with him that he was going to invest a lot of money in. And it was really the worst business decision of my life back in 1979. But as Hill says, out of every adversity or failure comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Well, had I not made that decision to leave public accounting at that time, I would never have met Markel, and we just celebrated 37 years of marriage. So out of the worst business decision, which is still one of the worst business decisions I made, I had the greatest life decision. And so not always do we get such immediate feedback on what the positive outcome is, but that certainly was a huge pivot in my life. And fast forward many, many years, that is when we started Rich Dad after a 10-year partnership. When I made that decision to leave, that was a huge decision. I was walking away from at the top of our success, tremendously successful company, but it was no longer congruent with my own personal mission. Robert wanted to go into franchising. It was not a great model for us, not a good model for the franchisees. And I had to make the decision to do what was right for me. And that was a huge pivot, and really thought at the time I was walking away from my legacy. I thought Rich Dad was my legacy, and somebody above said, "Oh no, there's more for you to do." And so that's when I got the call from President Bush asking to be on the President's Advisory Council, and the call from Don Green asking me to step into the world of Napoleon Hill. And so I often say sometimes you have to close one door for other doors of opportunity to open. So that was a huge pivot in my life. And I realized, oh no, I have so much more to do in my life. And I've had an incredible opportunity. I'm working in parallel with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. It's been such a huge gift to have built the largest personal finance brand, and then to be invited into the largest personal development brand, and be able to really breathe life into that for the modern day reader has just been an incredible experience. But 5 years ago, I had the biggest pivot of all, and it really redefined everything in life to me, and that is the strength of family and friends. We lost our youngest son 5 years ago, and I really went dark for several years, because I was still writing and still doing the things I needed to do, but I wasn't playing big anymore. But I needed time to heal. And it's something that I don't wish that experience on anyone. But when you have that kind of tremendous personal loss, whether it be financial, professional, or someone close to you, it does redefine the importance of life and the importance of every day being a gift. So from a standpoint of sharing with your audience and your listeners, there are lots of pivots in our lives. The issue is how we choose to respond to them and how we choose to move past them. So,
what was the process? Did you have a process that you either chose to use, or just something that came as a result of that tragedy, that you learned not only about your own resilience as a person, you learned something about?
Well, absolutely. I was releasing a book called Save Wisely, Spend Happily, which is actually part of the gift I'll give to your listeners. Literally 2 weeks after I lost my son, I was supposed to be in New York having a book launch. And I was able to put on this shield of emotional armor and fly to New York. All I did was go into the studio to do what I needed to do to launch the book. But again, it was mind over matter of doing what I knew I had agreed to do, and to complete my willingness to do something for my profession, and allow myself to set my emotions aside. But that was also detrimental to me physically and emotionally, because I was delaying grieving. But I think each one of us deals with that kind of tragedy or emotional upsets differently. And we have to be willing to allow ourselves to go through the process, whatever that process is. I mean, I have dear friends who've lost children, and they've been much quicker to respond and to rebuild, but it doesn't mean their grief wasn't as deep. And so each and every one of us, we have to look for friends and family to support us. I was so blessed. I mean, I'm grateful every day to the people that came and surrounded us with love and support. I wouldn't have survived it had I not had that. So, it's a time for reflection, as to say, we can't understand why certain things happen, but we have to say, what's next? How are we going to respond to it? I know my son wouldn't want me to hide away forever. And So I had to say, okay, how can I get past this? And for many years, just recently, I've started sharing it when I'm speaking, because I didn't feel comfortable sharing it. But now it's really part of why I continue to drive myself, is that I'm still here. And so I need to feel like I'm making a contribution. So,
yeah, we're all grieving in different things at different times, as you said. Sometimes it's not anything. The loss of a child, I can't even, as a father of four, cannot fathom it. That's just, I can't fathom anything that would be more of a loss to a person than to lose their son or daughter. And yet people walk around with that grief, with that cloud of regret about their past, about a business that they've lost, or a partnership that went sour, or some other relationship perhaps. And grief is something that that's definitely with a lot of people a lot of the time, Sharon. So it sounds like you got into action quickly as a way to kind of distract yourself from dealing with that. And the action was able to sort of put your emotions aside for a period of time. And as you said there, it enabled you to do what you had to do and fulfill your responsibilities. And at the same time, there was also a detriment. There was a price that you paid physically and emotionally as well. Any advice for folks about grieving the loss of something other than a human life? Whether it's, because I think there are a lot of people that are stuck, for lack of a better word to describe it, in the past. So that even, look, I've been in business for a lot of years. You've been in business for many, many years. Some of those businesses worked out great. And some of them worked out great for a time, and then they didn't work out great. And some of them crashed and burned. I mean, entrepreneurs, especially successful entrepreneurs, have to have this, there's like a skill, a tool, a gene, if you will, or something that enables them to keep moving ahead, keep moving forward. It sounds like you've had that. Did you learn it? Was it part of your DNA? What can you share with our folks about that? Because it's not the one thing we know about the world, there's no such thing as a straight line, and there's no straight lines in business, in however we define success. It's certainly not a straight line, is it?
Well, and I think, I often share one of my personal mantras is the question, why not? And I think that's very much in the hearts of all entrepreneurs is, you say why, find out the question to why is your passion. But in the world, the question why, you're waiting for someone else to give you an answer. And I always say, I say, why not? Why not take the road less traveled? Why not do something that someone else is not doing? And that why not is coming from within. So that's kind of been a personal mantra. And then the issue of understanding, with something doesn't work out, you say, next. What's next? Because it's, there were circumstances at play. And I think when I deal a lot of with people who've lost their businesses, or they're finding tremendous financial distress. And the issue is, a lot of people, they just refuse to change what they're doing. And so in order for you to create a better life, or to get out of debt, or to start a new business, is you need to be able to sit back and really try and set the emotions aside. Say, okay, what can I do differently in the future to get different results? And so many people end up doing the same thing over and over again. And of course, we've all heard the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But truly, in real life, I see that, you see women that pick the same kind of men over and over again, or people who start a business and they have a track record of failures because they think they know what they need to do, but you need to be open to learning the mistakes. I say there are no mistakes, there are just learning opportunities. So, okay, that didn't work. Next, what else can we do? What's next? But it doesn't mean that you don't have that feeling. And I think there's also a big difference, and I talk about it in Think and Grow Rich for Women, between men and women. I think men they don't let mistakes define who they are. They kind of, you just kind of let next, let's keep going. And women tend to do that. We kind of carry it like our mistakes, like a big sack of potatoes on our shoulders. And it's something that I deal with all the time with women. It's like, it doesn't define who you are. And so when you have a mistake, or when you make a mistake, or you have a failure, say, okay, what was the lesson? Because that isn't who you are. It's just something that you experienced. And so take that lesson and learn from it and go on and create the next chapter of your life, that pivot in your life.
Yes. Sharon, what I want to cover two things in the time we've got remaining, and one of them has to do with the financial advice you've given to so many people. Is there one pivotal piece of advice more than anything else that you find for men or women that you've given that has been really, really pivotal?
Well, my favorite word on earth is the word assets. And I would like to try and make things as simple as possible. All wealthy people, no matter what language they speak, where they live, they're wealthy because they have assets that generate revenue. And so we think about how much we're earning, our income. Stop thinking about income, start thinking about assets. It's not what you do for your paycheck that counts. It's what you do with your paycheck that counts. And so start. And one of the things I'm talking to people about right now with a tax reform act, and a time when people are getting bonuses or salary increases, allow that money to go into an investment account where you can start buying assets, whether it be rental real estate or the stock market or a matching 401k. Allow that, because you haven't seen that money. So you've been living without that money. Use that money as a jump start to your investment account. Because financial freedom is when income from your assets exceed your expenses. And so assets is the one commonality, no matter what kind of wealth you have, that separates people who are financially free from those who are not.
Yeah, beautiful. And lastly, the thing that we I think are driven by is our habits. So clearly we have habits, these unconscious ways of being and thinking and all that kind of thing. And then there's this opportunity to change. As you say, people are sort of product of their habits and even victims of their habits sometimes. We want to create a new result. We've got to do things differently. And so to change those habits, we've got to override them. And we have a word that we use for that. We call it rituals. So more of a conscious master habits, so to speak. So what rituals do you have? What habits do you do, things that you do consciously in order to either get yourself have in a more clear headspace, or to be closer to your maker, or to be more attuned with what your heart is guiding you to do? What are some of the rituals that you use on a daily basis?
Well, I have several, but one, before this interview, before any time I get on stage, before I do anything, I actually say the prayer of Jabez, which basically is saying to the greater power, use me and let me say what needs to be said, what can help the audience. And it goes, enlarge my territory, and let your hand be with me so that I am saying what I'm supposed to be saying, and protect me if there are people that don't like what I'm saying. So I highly recommend the prayer of Jabez as something that has helped me for many, many years. And in fact, it was when my son passed away that became my shining lifeline. And then I also, from a more practical sense, I am a huge user of time blocks, because we have so many shiny object syndromes that get us, particularly with Twitter and Facebook and email popping in all the time, is to really set aside time to accomplish missions and accomplish tasks. Not something I really did until the last couple of years, and it's really been very helpful. And I have something many years ago, I called it my 2-2-2 rule, which was I would send 2 personal notes, make 2 phone calls, and 2 faxes for the future of my business before I would end the day. So constantly always focusing on the future. And today we don't send too many faxes anymore, but again, it's social media posts, emails, personal phone calls, and personal notes. So it's kind of a 2-2-2-2 rule, but I try and do that every day, always looking to the future, always being creative and focusing on how to continue serving people into the future.
That's beautiful and very tangible, just as you said. So the prayer of Jabez, is that something that you've read, or do you have it committed to memory?
Yes. Oh Lord, dear, bless me indeed. Enlarge my territory. May your hand be with me and protect me from evil, that I may not cause harm.
Beautiful. Yes. And I remember when I read Think and Grow Rich for the first time, I adopted this mantra. I ask not, O divine providence, for more riches, but more wisdom with which to accept and use wisely the riches I received at birth in the form of power to control and direct my mind to whatever ends I desire. Yeah, it's always great to be with someone else and to hear what their mantras are, the things that they say, the prayers they repeat, because it's so often the case, I think, that we keep a lot of these things to ourselves, not because we're trying to hoard them, and this is just my perspective, but because I don't know that we're always so comfortable in sharing with the world that how big a part these sayings play in our lives, the prayers that we say, the prayers upon waking or before going to bed, the ways that we humble ourselves on a daily basis, regardless of whatever your CV looks like, whatever your accomplishments are. We're all human beings. We all put our pants on one leg at a time and have made mistakes, had great successes, had great joys and great sorrows. So Sharon, your presence is liberating. It's beautiful. You've done so much to liberate people from the mindset of the employee or the mindset of the disempowered employee. I remember when I was reading Think and Grow Rich. Reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in the late 90s. And I was an attorney and I was a workaholic and I thought I had it all going on. I had a lot of money and a very successful business. But I was so trading my time for money and missing the lives of our kids, missing so much along the way. And I wasn't building assets. I was just building income and spending it as quickly as it came in. And that book really opened my eyes, and to know how much that book has changed so many lives and the influence that you've had in putting that information out into the world is just a blessing again. So thank you for being on the show. I know you're doing some great things now. Where can people find you? What's the best way for men and women who wish to know about the work of the Napoleon Hill Foundation or your personal work? Where's the best way for people to find you?
Well, visit me at SharonLechter.com. Everything is there. It's SHARON, and the last name is LECHTER, SharonLechter.com. And if you go to SharonLechter.com/gift, I have a book called You and Your Money, and it's not a paper. It's not a 20-page book. It's actually a 200-page book. All things money, that is my gift to everyone. So
perfect for the holidays and
yes.
Perfect for any time. Thank you, Sharon. Any final words, anything you'd like to say before we close out?
Well, Adam, I want to thank you so much for including me and really applaud you for what you're doing. You are a true gift to all who work with you and all who know you. And it's my honor and pleasure to know you and to applaud you as well. And for everyone listening, this is an opportunity for all of us to, I want to congratulate you for taking the time to learn from Adam. And certainly I'm honored that you're listening to me as well. But realize, what action are you going to take? We can do a lot of listening. We can do a lot of reading. But I challenge you, what did you hear? What did you hear that made you say, aha, I can do that? And so please make us know that we've made an impact on your life by taking action in your personal life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. And for everybody out there, of course, we love it that you're listening and that you are a part of our community. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, do that. And if you have not yet joined our Start My Pivot community on Facebook, please look to that community for support, for resources. People are sharing incredible things in that arena, and it's a vulnerable space, but it's a sacred space. So the support that's given and the opportunities to receive support is really profound. You can get there by going to pivotfb.com. And as we close out the session, the way we always do, sort of bookending our thoughts at the beginning, I'm going to wave my magic wand. I get to do this since it's since I'm the one in charge of the mic. I get to do this. I'm waving my magic wand, and everybody who's listening, who's watching, you get to wake up tomorrow. That's my prayer. That's my hope. And I'm grateful for that we all get to wake up. And as you do, as you take that first breath in the morning, regardless of what may be happening in the world around you or in your personal world, recognize how important that breath is, how beautiful that breath is. And it is something to be grateful for. So the 3-part ritual for programming and in some ways reprogramming your subconscious as well as your conscious to be present and to be loving of yourself is simply to wake up, to be grateful, and to put your feet on the floor if you're able to do that. What a blessing that is as well. And say these words: I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. And we'll see you very soon. Ciao for now, everybody.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.